Sally Olson here, and today I begin a brand new series of videos called Beyond eBay, and this will be one of the first ones. I'm putting it in my newsletter. I want you to listen to it. Let's start with a statement from Maya Angelou. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, such as eBay, change your attitude. Don't complain. And thus is my story. So let me just tell you a little bit of how I've come to these conclusions. I was raised in the 1950s. This was a time when I can't remember anyone ever getting divorced from the time I was in kindergarten all the way up through high school. No one got divorced that I was aware of. This is a picture of me, by the way, my mom, my dad, and we're visiting Aunt Minnie at her farm in Pleasantville, Iowa. That's the way it was in those days. Short, sweet, and simple. We'd have big family picnics and enjoy the summer. This is my grandmother. In those days, we mowed the lawn by hand. They didn't have power mowers. She had an ice box and ice deliveries every day. She did not have a refrigerator. She had a radio, not a television set. So things were much simpler then. When there was a technological advantage, for example, my dad bought this new car. It no longer had the running board. He thought that was a big innovation. And it had a little fan up here. It's sort of a foul air conditioner, but the point was that these innovations that were made, television, having milk that you could buy at the store, all kinds of things, little things like that, improved the life of people in the community. Now, what did we do in the summer? There was no air conditioning, so my mom, my brother, and myself would go outside and hose each other off. We had a lot of fun doing this. Now, what does this mean in terms of eBay? It means that I have a lot of trouble adjusting to change. And so I'm going to give you a short case for diversity. It began on January 29th in 2008. This is when they began to say, congratulations, we're going to have new changes for you. We're going to lower fees. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It sounded wonderful. And they began with an announcement of DSRs, which I can never seem to remember exactly what that means. But basically, it's a criteria of 4 items, and people can rate you further than just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or whatever. Let's see, what do they have? A positive, neutral, or negative. Well, then, within a month after that, they said they were reducing our listing fees, giving us rewards. Oh, and by the way, they made some feedback changes. Buyers will only be able to receive positive feedback. Well, now I was starting to get concerned because I imagined myself in a debate with someone where I could only say good things about them, but they could say anything about me that they wanted to. And I thought, that seems sort of skewed. Well, it didn't stop there. I kept thinking, I hope this stops. Well, now they're going to give credit for repeat feedback. I immediately realized if I sold 5 items to one person and they gave me 5 negative feedbacks, I mean, it would just goof up my feedback for over a year. So I realized I may have to limit, if I sell on eBay, the amount of items I can sell to a person, and that's just to protect myself from having a bad rating or losing my power seller status. You have to do what you can to keep that power seller status. Then in March, on March 24th, they announced that on March 31st, 7 days earlier, or 7 days later, they're going to do digital downloads, that those are no longer available and you have to run a classified ad. And I thought, well, this is really getting to be a lot. Now they say they have a new search engine called Best Match, and if you would only take those shipping costs of yours and put them into the product cost and sell the product for like $15 instead of $10, then they would give you a better match in a search engine. Of course, they were going to get 8% of that $5 shipping cost that you put in to your product cost. Seemed to me, in terms of keeping track of this and in bookkeeping, it was a nightmare. But it seemed to work well for eBay, not for me. Then all of a sudden the seller dashboard is here. People without notice were ripped off from being power sellers. People went from this 30-day rolling average down to having a 100% rating down to like a 98, 95. Some dropped as far as 90%. It was awful. And so I finally came to the conclusion, and here's another one, the removal of the choice policy. Oh, and as I didn't, mystery auctions are going to be prohibited. In July, you can't have any kind of links on your About Me pages, eBay blogs. I mean, this is just out of hand. So I go back to Maya Angelou. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. So this whole series of newsletters that I'm going to give for the next 12 months is going to be about going beyond eBay, diversifying your products, finding and building a website of your own, finding other auction sites, and we're going to put our heads together because I am determined I will have to make this change.